Hello, Gene.
Hey, Bill.
All right, long time no see. It's so good to be back on the Bioactive Nexus podcast
It
with you,
is
brother.
good to be back for sure. And you know what? I'm actually rather looking forward to today's topic. I think it's an important one for a lot of us, especially as we're aging. Not just as we're aging, but
that's right.
As you age, it becomes more and more important.
Yeah, and of course that's ever present in our minds as baby boomers here. So
as baby boomers,
yeah, because
it is something.
Yeah. We have to deal with more brain fog, So, but everybody deals with it. I'll share some. Actually, I'll share some market data. I forgot to put it in our agenda. Okay, but I do have some market data on that segment. So anyway, the official title today is "Feeding the Brain: Nutraceuticals, Neuroplasticity, and the Future of Cognitive Function." Okay. And this is another episode in our Bioactive Insight series. I love that. Yeah. So, but Gene, I think what would be really cool, because we are talking about cognitive function. So let's do I got a riddle for you, and then I've got a brain teaser, and everybody else can follow on in the brain teaser. And I'm gonna read your mind through the airwaves.
Okay.
Yeah. So first, we'll start with a simple riddle.
Okay.
What comes once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years?
Would it surprise you if I said I knew the answer?
Yeah, because you looked at the agenda.
I did. And for those of you who don't know, the answer is the letter M.
That's right.
M comes once in a minute, twice in a moment, and never in 1,000 years. So that one I know, but because you put it in the agenda.
Yeah, I did. But, sometimes we take it was actually literal. What comes once in a minute. It means like what letter, the letter M, So again, riddles are meant to kind of trick you, whatever. But now I got something a little more involved with a brain teaser. We're going to do this. I've done this one for years with people and groups of people. It's always a lot of fun. So let me start out, and I want you to follow along, and then you guys listening do the same things. First step: pick a number between 1 through 5.
Okay.
You have it in your mind.
I do.
Now take that number and multiply it by 9. Okay. It's important that people know how to multiply here. So now, if it's a 2-digit number, I want you to add those two numbers together. If it's a single-digit number, that's your number.
If it's a 2-digit number, add those numbers together. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever number you picked, multiply by 9.
Yeah.
If it's a 2-digit number, add those two numbers
together. Okay. Got it.
All right. Now take that number and subtract 5 from it.
Okay.
Yes, I know. You got to do math in your head. We got to do a calculator.
Go ahead.
All right. So you got that number? All right.
Yeah.
If the number is the number 1, you're going to start with the letter A. If it's the number 2, it's the letter B. If it's 3, it's C, 4, D, 5, E, 6, F, and so on. Okay. So you got a letter?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is, first thing that comes to your mind, don't give this a lot of thought. Just boom, whatever comes to your mind. Think of a country that starts with that letter, and the first one that comes to your mind. What's the first country that comes to your mind with that letter? Don't say it.
Well, that's embarrassing. I can't think of a country that starts with that one.
Okay, that is embarrassing. Okay. So.
Hold on. Give me a second. I'll think of one.
Okay. So again, remember, 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, 4 is D, 5 is E, 6 is F, and so on.
Okay. I have one.
You have a country? Okay.
Yeah.
Now what I want you to do is take the last letter of that country and think of an animal. First one that comes to mind.
Okay.
Right. Now I want you to take the last letter of that animal and think of a color that starts with that letter.
Got it.
Okay. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you really think there are orange kangaroos in Denmark?
For goodness sake.
How did I do that? I read your mind, buddy.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. There's a little trick to that, but it's fun, right?
That is fun. And I think part of the fun part is not knowing how you did it. I kind of love that you did it. I don't need to know how. I just enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm not going to reveal how I did it. It's like a magician. I'm not going to reveal my.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't reveal.
But the point of the brain teaser, my friend, is about cognitive function. It's the way our brains work, the way they're programmed, right? And of course, that gets kind of fuzzy when we're tired or we're stressed out and all that kind of stuff, and brain fog sets in. So, and of course, that amplifies trying to do things and being sharp in terms of what we're doing in our everyday lives. So, and focus and attention, whether you're an athlete or you're, trying to focus on that. I mean, so many things that go into that, which is going to be fun as we dive into the supplement space here. And we're going to talk a little bit quite a bit about mechanisms of action, right? So we're going to kind of give some guidance here in terms of innovation, because you want to kind of key in on different mechanisms of action, I think. So again, our brains are really funny how we think or they're programmed. And so let's talk about why cognitive function matters. Right?
Yeah.
We should define that first.
Defining cognitive function. Okay. Cognitive function has some subdomains, memory, attention, executive function, processing speed, and neuroplasticity, which not everybody knows what that is. And that's basically, for those who don't know, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout our life. That's neuroplasticity. But those are the things: memory, attention, executive function, processing speed, neuroplasticity. That is kind of what cognitive function is about.
Yep, it is. It's interesting because it can be a positive experience, or it can be all kinds of different experiences that can program your brain in a certain way, and you can reprogram it as well. If you think about post-traumatic stress, for example, going through therapies and stuff like that, you have to do a reset and reprogramming. And we're not going to get into it in this show, but it's something I want to do for a topic earlier, and that's psychedelics. There's a lot of research being done on for treatment of post-traumatic stress and all kinds of things. And having done some of these, therapies or whatever myself, I've actually discovered that it really does kind of rewire your brain. It really does reprogram you in a certain way. So, but I want to save that for another show. But again, it has to do with neuroplasticity and all that, which is cool.
Yeah.
So let me share on the market, okay? Because this is a huge multi-billion-dollar market, right?
It is. I've seen some of the data on this.
Yep, and there's a lot out there. So, for example, let's just start with brain health and nootropics, for example. So the global nootropics market is reaching an estimated $21.3 billion in 2025. That's in the U.S., projected to grow to $73.1 billion by 2034, a 14.7% growth rate. That's huge.
That's enormous. That's
double digits.
Unprecedented, but it's close.
It is pretty good. And then if you look at brain health supplements as a whole, they're valued at $6.3 billion in 24, and then $6.7 billion in 25, and it's growing at 8% just for brain health, and expected to go to 11.6.
Yeah, there's some data out there even suggesting higher levels, but no matter how you look at it, how you slice it, it's a big, huge market.
Exactly.
And look, supplements for the brain, supplements for cognitive function. We should just mention that it's really part of a larger strategy for brain health. It's not the be all end all, but it can play an important role as part of a strategy.
And the reason those markets there's two major things that are driving that, okay, in terms of this growth of this sector. And one of them is, in the U.S., the population that's age 65 and older is going to reach 80 million by 2040. So that's like 21% of the population. So that's driving demand for brain health solutions. Globally, we're looking at over 60. Anything over 60 is nearly double, from 12 to 22% between 2015 and 2050. So there's that. Then the other factor is some recent surveys have shown that stress and burnout trends found that 25% of adults experience burnout before age 30. Can you believe that? And 42% saying stress levels were higher than average. So that's driving it. And then the last thing, we did a show on this, Gene, remember biohacking, right?
Yeah.
The whole neurohacking movement, which was born in the early 2000s, that continued to evolve. And that's driving this trend for these types of supplements in this space here. So it's a huge multi-billion market. If you're not playing in the mental wellness space in this area, then you should be, probably. Okay.
Right. You really should, because it is huge, and you're letting it go. And of course, not to go off the agenda exactly, but I just wanted to make the point to people that it's far from a one size fits all, or it's far from a one generation fits all. There's many types of cognitive support supplements that cover a broad range of needs.
This is
from
true.
Gen Z up through baby boomers, and they're different approaches often.
Well, and just the fact that people are burning out at age 30, it's like, okay, it depends what's going on in your life, right? So your lifestyle, all those things factor in, of course. So it's a much broader, it's not like black and white in terms of here's the solution sort of thing.
No, it's not. And I mean, you look at somebody like, my son, he's 26. He doesn't care about the memory supplements stuff. But if you gave him something that might help him with gaming, cognitive function for gaming.
Yeah, there you go.
That he'd be interested in.
That he'd be all over that, man.
Oh, yeah. In a minute.
Same with my son, too, by the way.
Yeah.
And actually, both of them. Yeah, I've got two of them now. They're both the same age. They're like the same age, 26 or whatever. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so all right, let's dive into the mechanisms of action. I think that's really important because there's quite a few here, and let's break that down a little bit.
We do, and I'm telling you why it's so important, people, that you look at the mechanism of action. One of the biggest mistakes I see out there for people formulating products is they will take several nutraceuticals, all that have the same mechanism of action, and put them in a formula. That's so limiting. You want to use different mechanisms of action in a cognitive health formula, so you're attacking the problem from many different angles and get a greater overall effect, rather than just stack it on top of each other, come at it from different angles, and that's better. So, on to mechanisms of action.
There you go. So, first one on the list here, we'll go through them all. Neurotransmitter modulation. Okay, so what are the neurotransmitters in our body? Dopamine, acetylcholine, GABA, which stands for gamma aminobutyric acid, and serotonin, of course. So all of these have an impact in terms of, and let's not forget melatonin is in that cascade with serotonin, right?
It's in that same cascade. You're right. Yeah. The second one is neuroinflammation reduction. And in fact, when we think about inflammation, we have a term used called inflammaging. Talks about as we age, we have a higher level of inflammation, which can impact cognitive function. But that inflammation can have a negative effect on cognition. And so you're looking at ways to inhibit common inflammatory markers like NF-kappa beta, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, some of the common ones, or just C-reactive protein.
Right, exactly. And you're wanting to inhibit those because you want to reduce inflammation, of course. It's a reduction in those sorts of biomarkers, so to speak. The next would be like mitochondrial energy support. So energy is huge. I mean, if you don't have good energy, you're not going to be effective in terms of your thinking when you're studying.
Not at all.
I remember Gene, way back, a long time ago, when it was down to the wire of getting my PhD. And I was the end of my PhD term at the end of 5 years. And I started months ahead of time doing my thesis, my dissertation and stuff, which is, it's like that thick. It's a book. It's like a freaking Bible. And
Yeah.
And all the spectral data and stuff. And of course, we didn't have all the advanced digital technology today to make it really easy to compile that. I was cutting.
No, God, I remember that.
I was cutting and pasting numbers on peaks on HPLC and NMR spectrograms and stuff like that. And it took a long time, and it got even down to the wire where I was days away from the ceremony, and I couldn't walk across the stage to get my PhD if I didn't have my dissertation submitted. So the last 4 days before the deadline, I didn't go to sleep for 4 days. That was brutal.
That's rough.
That was brutal. So I needed energy for that. And so all through, I had someone supporting me. It was a good friend that came over from the UK. She was bringing me food, bringing me coffee, all kinds of stuff, and anything I could to boost ATP production in my neurons. Okay, so that was my energy support for that.
So the message there is you got to have energy in order to think. Mitochondrial energy support, making your ATP. Well, and of course, let's not forget cerebral blood flow. If you can't bring all the nutrients, all the neurotransmitters, all the everything to where it needs to be, nothing's going to work. So anything that you can do that might help with that, so you're thinking of vasodilation, nitric oxide signaling, things that get the blood flowing.
Exactly. And then we have neurogenesis and BDNF stimulation. Okay, this has to do with brain plasticity and repair. Again, this is another brain-derived nootropic factor. So BDNF, I think we've talked about this before, you get an increase in BDNF, for example, with intermittent fasting, because your body's needs time to repair its cells and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and also, for those who don't know, it's crucial for learning, for memory, even for mood regulation if you don't have it. To me, it's kind of almost a marker of cognitive wellness,
Yeah. And I forgot to mention earlier up above when we were talking about neurotransmitters, I meant to mention this. So, for example, we talked about psychedelics. I think we're going to do a whole show in this, Gene. I think we've got some guys we can bring on for that as well, because this is a hot area of science and research, and it's getting a lot of attention. But, DMT or dimethyltryptamine, right? That's what we're talking, is kind of the key component in ayahuasca, bufo, and other mushrooms, that kind of stuff. But they're all different forms. And they are impacting neurotransmitter. They're all modulating neurotransmitters and affecting that. That's what they do. So, for example, it's O-methoxy DMT, which is present in the bufo frog from the secretion of the toad.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's like it binds 1,000-fold higher to the 5-HT serotonin receptor.
Oh, wow.
So it's like super powerful. I mean, boom, it only lasts 20 minutes, but man, it pretty much, they say it's like, they call it the God molecule, because it's like you die, everything goes black, and then you come back and you're reborn. It's like that.
Sounds powerful. Well,
it's powerful. But anyway, let's get into the next one here. Gut-brain axis.
Gut-brain axis, yeah. So look, people often think of the neurotransmitters that are produced as just something that gets produced here, but yet so many of them, most of them actually get produced in the gut. And so it's about the microbiome of the gut, what they're producing and what they're helping to produce, and how those are impacting ultimately cognition. So you've got to have good gut health as well if you want to have good cognition. That's
right. Anyway, so this sets the stage for us to kind of dive into the ingredients now that kind of, and we'll refer back to these mechanisms of where they fit in there. So, and it's a long list, Gene. So, and this is not comprehensive either. There may be some other ones out there that we don't have on here for sure. But let's start with the first one, acetylcholine, which is important for memory and for focus, dopamine support. So it's hitting that neurotransmitter. Well, probably more than one mechanism of action here. I think it's also
working with acetylcholine as well.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Yeah. So that's a good one. Bacopa is another one it's been around for a long time, part of Ayurvedic medicine. And it's been shown to be very important in helping to retain memories and also in terms of processing speed of information in your brain. And there's randomized controlled trials that show that. It's actually one of my standards, my favorites when I'm formulating products, because you can use a certain dose standardized for its Bacopa size, and you get a pretty nice effect at around 300 or so milligrams, depending on this extract. And so, yeah, I love it for that purpose.
Yep. Then we have phosphatidylserine, which impacts cognitive performance, stress support. So it's one of those transmitters there for that.
And there's a ton of research on it, by the way. Back when I was doing my master's in herbal medicine, I had to take a course. I had to take on brain aging and all, and I had to do a paper focusing on 2 nutraceuticals. And I did ginkgo and I did phosphatidylserine. And man, I really chose one when I chose phosphatidylserine, because there's just such a huge body of research covering everything it does. So it's a great one. It's still one I take today myself. Yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of research on that one for sure. Yeah.
So, so lion's mane, that's one of the ones that is a little more popular these days.
Mushroom. So
it's a mushroom. Yeah, lion's mane is a mushroom. And it's good for neurogenesis. And initially, it was very, very popular, and you could find it in Health Canada. They had it in their monograph. It was approved for certain functions, including cognitive function. But then there's been some studies since then showing some really good effects. So neurogenesis, good cognition, helpful for memory. So one of the more, let's say, more popular ones these days, but with some good research to support it.
Cool. An old trusted botanical, Ginkgo biloba, that's been around for literally
the granddaddy of all herbal cognition.
Actually, before all these other ingredients, it was Ginkgo is the one.
That was it.
Right? That was it. For memory and all that. Going back to, I remember when we launched Centrum Herbals back in '98, it was Ginkgo was one of the 7 herbals that we went to market with, and
yeah,
I mean, this one was. There's a lot of research on Ginkgo biloba, of course.
Well, we were talking earlier about the blood flow and all that. That's a great one for that.
Yep, and for memory and all that. So again, there's a lot of research on that one. And then, remember, Indina, I don't know the case anymore. I haven't used Ginkgo in so long, but Indina had cornered the market on that way back then. They had a special blend that they had developed. But I don't know where it is today. But anyway, that one's an oldie but a goodie.
It is. Now, one combination that I've personally used in a number of formulations over the years is theanine and caffeine. Look, caffeine is well known for its ability to promote focus, okay, and have several other benefits associated with cognitive function. But it's also known for the ability to be a stimulant, and for some people who are sensitive, that can be a little bit of jitteriness and stuff. But theanine, which helps with your alpha waves in the brain, has a calming effect, and that calming doesn't make you less cognitive, it makes you better able to focus, has a sort of a modulating effect on the caffeine. So it gives you sort of a smooth mental energy without as much. It sort of smooths out those peaks so you don't get that jitteriness so much.
Yeah.
And the combination with the use of caffeine and theanine, where you're using I think it was 100 milligrams of theanine and 50 milligrams of caffeine, and finding really, really good results. Multiple studies on that. So that's a fantastic combination.
Yeah, and that's why drinking green tea is real popular because of that.
Right. It's got both.
It's got both. And the other one, since we're on the subject of teas, is I don't have it on the list here, but yerba mate, which is fascinating. And I've been drinking that for years. Definitely improves focus and energy when I drink it. You'd be surprised to know there's no caffeine present. So what are the components that are happening there? I think it's been around, been used for centuries down in South America and stuff like that. So anyway, that just wanted to mention that one. And then, of course, we can't leave out omega-3.
Can't leave them out, no.
Because this is for total brain health, structural brain support. It's an anti-inflammatory as well.
Which we mentioned earlier is so important for brain health, that neuroinflammation issue.
Omega-3s have got to be part of your diet, not just for brain health, but so many other
Cardiovascular health.
cardiovascular.
It's a range of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
exactly.
one of my more recent favorites, not the least of which, because I was involved in a couple of the studies that were done, is Spermidine. In particular, I was looking at the one from my company. So Nutriland USA has their rice germ extract standardized for its spermidine content. We did a couple of studies on it. One of the things we found was that it promotes autophagy, which is important for cellular renewal. And we also found that at the same time, it was effective at helping in cognitive function, improving cognitive function by 98% compared to placebo in individuals with mild cognitive dysfunction. So, just saying, something worth considering there.
Absolutely. And I've got one more on the list there, Gene, I added while we were talking, and that's Rhodiola rosea, or Arctic grape.
Oh, one of my old favorites.
It's an old favorite of mine. I've been taking that for years. And, I don't know if there's truth to this, but I've heard the lore that the Vikings used to chew on the root before they go into battle, give them energy and focus and stamina. And it's probably true because it does do that.
And there's really good studies research on it. I remember seeing some studies on like young clinicians, doing these long hours and helping them with their fatigue, with their focus as well. So pretty cool stuff.
Anyway, so we've got a few others here that are emerging and maybe experimental. So let's talk about those a little bit.
Sure.
I'll start with the first one here. Uridine monophosphate. Okay. That is shown indications for neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
And it's synergistic with DHA, which is present in the omega-3s, and choline. Okay. So
that's right.
We mentioned that at the beginning, which help with memory and focus and dopamine support. So there's some emerging research in that area there. So check that out. Well, I think we'll see more of that in the near future, of course, certainly with the trend with the market.
Yeah. Now, another one is PQQ. PQQ, I remember back, 2014, something like that. I was working for Twin Lab at the time, and we came out with the PQQ product. And so I had to do a lot of research on that, and I wrote a couple of articles on it. And it was fascinating. And one of the things that fascinated me the most is at that time, it was either the first or one of the first nutraceuticals I ever saw that I saw help stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. So actually helping your body to manufacture new mitochondria, your little ATP production facilities in your cells. So if you have more mitochondria, you can make more ATP. So that was pretty cool. I was like, wow, this actually helps you make new mitochondrial biogenesis, which of course is going to help in the neurons, is going to help in brain function. And to me, that was a very, very cool thing that hadn't been seen. Now there are other things that help with mitochondrial biogenesis, but that's still sort of the first one, and the first one that I think of, just because it was the first one I ever learned about for that.
Yeah, I agree. Another one I think is interesting is sage extract. So I love the smell of sage.
I do too. It's wonderful.
And I cook with it. By the way, when I make my mashed potatoes, it's not only put cream cheese and butter and or sour cream and butter or whatever, but I add a little bit of sage to it. Okay. And
always makes me think of Thanksgiving when I smell sage.
Yeah, there you go. But here's another thing, and that's shown some indications for short-term memory and also attention. So you may or may not know this, but a lot of native ceremonies, because I've participated in sweat lodges and et cetera, all start with a purification with sage, burning sage. So I'm almost even thinking now, no one's done a research study on that, but maybe that's those volatiles that are burning from the plant that you're inhaling, maybe they're having an impact on your preparing you for the actual ceremony and stuff like that.
Yeah,
maybe
that
you
makes
get
sense.
It kind of makes sense.
It does.
I don't believe there's any research in that, but again, this is an emerging area, and that'd be interesting to look at, to be quite honest.
Okay, so another one is nicotinamide riboside. There's a whole lot that's been said about NAD and how NAD levels decline as we age and how that affects so many areas of our health. And of course, NAD goes down the line in creating ATP.
Right.
And so if you have enough NAD, that'll help you make enough ATP. And so it's going to be very good for that whole mitochondrial energy production process. And there is data showing that, in fact, nicotinamide riboside, or NR, increases NAD. There's other things that do too, things like NMN or things like niacinamide, but nicotinamide riboside does have some good data on that, and that can be very beneficial for cognitive function.
And the last one on our list is neuroprotective polyphenols. So, for example, and I have some innovation history to share with you on that one. So, blueberry anthocyanins, right?
Yeah.
I formulated a product in 2007 that I launched at Expo West. It was a super antioxidant drink concentrate, and you could drink it straight. It was pretty potent, but again, it was around that time of all those functional beverages like mangosteen and acai came on the scene. But I actually had Caucasian blueberry, which is from the Caucasus Mountains in Russia, if you're familiar with that. So I remember there was a little early research in that. Of course, there's a lot of traditional anecdotal evidence there. But again, polyphenols are these, big compounds, and they're present. They're ubiquitous in nature, so you'll find them in these other superfruits and stuff like that. The other ingredient that's coming on the scene now is curcumin from Ayurvedic medicine. So that's another one. There's some early research on that. Again, with all of these, it all depends on the right dosage, and bioavailability of the ingredient. Is it soluble? All that kind of stuff. You have to consider all these in your innovation strategy, which segues us into our innovation strategies. Yes.
That's right. And looking at, if you will, stack strategies, how to combine some of these things together to create a better formulation or supplementation strategy in general. And, you want to look at things like having a targeted cognitive formula. You want to consider whether you're looking at acute, whether you're looking at long-term, or combining both acute and long-term, so you have something that works more immediately and then something that works over the long haul, which is a good strategy if you're formulating something. That's certainly one of those. And another strategy is...
Yes. Well, you want to we already said this earlier, synergistic effects, or there's a synergy there. They're hitting on different mechanisms of action. So, for example, you could have acetylcholine with phosphatidylserine, or Biloba and Theanine, or DHA and Uridine, right? These are just simple combinations.
They work nicely together when you do that. They're good
combos, right? And by the way, don't think you need to do the kitchen sink approach as well.
Oh, please don't do the kitchen sink.
Please don't do the kitchen sink approach.
My goodness.
And put a dusting of each thing in there. Come on, man. Let's do it right.
I actually had a meeting today with a company that sells supplements, and they had some real old school supplements where they combined like everything but the kitchen sink, and not enough of any single one to do the trick. But to their credit, they were looking at upgrading those formulas and doing something different. And I was glad to see that, because I see so many old school formulas that just do that. They just have so much tossed in, figuring, whoever formulated it in the first instance may have legitimately thought that was a good thing, and not understanding or realizing or caring that having all those things together in small amounts doesn't work better. There's no data showing that. It's just, and it looks nice. It's window dressing.
Exactly. And it's important to call out that, if you are going to formulate a product in the space or whatever, and while there's research on each of these individual ingredients we talked about, when you put them together, there's probably no research on that as a combination. So if you really want to see the uptick in benefit of the synergistic effect of putting together complementary ingredients, then do the study on your product as a whole. And of course, making sure you have the right doses. And then what's the other thing that we have to consider here in terms of that, Gene?
Well, so to your point, dosing strategies and delivery, because we have issues with bioavailability.
Especially the blood-brain barrier,
especially there. So, and issues on, are you delivering something to where it needs to go, and what are you doing to to help that. So you're looking at things like liposomal strategies, SNEDs, chelates from minerals, different types, time releasing. There's different ways, even things like probiotics. What are you doing to help get it to where it's going so it's not all destroyed? There's delivery strategies you can use to help the situation.
Absolutely.
It's not enough just to put something good in there. You have to make sure that what you put in there gets to where it needs to go in a form where it's still going to have value. And that's where being a smart formulator and looking at some of these delivery strategies makes a difference. And please, if you're going to put it in there, use a clinically relevant dose. Don't just put some in there to make it look good. Put enough in there to do something.
Exactly. So let's talk about what's real versus the hype in the nootropic space. Okay,
so many of those, yeah.
So many of those. In a way, this is kind of like weight loss or sports supplements with the wild claims here. So,
lose 20 pounds in 2 days.
Yeah, right. No. That's not happening. So trendy, but unproven claims. So like instant focus. Okay, that's not. You can't prove that. That's
you're not going to have. The closest thing you get to instant focus is you have some caffeine, and that helps you focus. But even that is sort of a misrepresentation of what happens. Yeah. It's not like you become laser focused now. It just has an improvement, But
there are some clinically validated tools to measure processing times of your brain and stuff like that. There's actual experiments you can do with that, which are pretty cool. That's one of the things I would do in a clinical study with these sorts of things. Now, the other one I love is limitless claims. In other words, if you remember the movie with Bradley Cooper, it was a cool movie, and I loved it because it was like almost kind of like a modern day Marvel comic sort of thing, making a superhuman person. But this guy, drug company, invented this molecule that increased cognitive function like exponentially, and it kept growing. And then he was like super smart. He could predict numbers. I mean, I love the movie. It was a lot of fun to watch. Right. But of course, there are no supplements that can do that. Okay, let's be realistic.
There's no pills that give you limitless abilities. So anything that, if it sounds too good to be true,
it probably
is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's probably not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know it in your gut.
Oh yeah. And that's why it is so important whenever you're formulating a product to make sure you use materials that have clinical support, where you have studies done, you've got the clinical backing, and you're using the right materials. Just because, let's say, for example, you said, oh, look, here's some Ginkgo biloba, old school, but good research on it. And so you use Ginkgo biloba powder. No. You have to use a specific Ginkgo biloba extract, the one that's been used in all the studies. Use the right standardized extract. If you don't, there's no data showing it's going to have the effect. So make sure it's clinical backing. Make sure you're using the right form of the nutraceuticals, such as a standardized extract, and make sure it is a mechanism of action driven formula. Make sure you're looking at the mechanisms of action, what they're going to do, the right combination of nutraceuticals to achieve that. Make a smart formulation smart.
That's a good one. I like that. Make a smart formulation smart. Well, and don't forget, we need to have realistic consumer expectations. So, if you're leading the consumer down the rabbit hole, the instant focus, limitless, and all that, you're headed to a train wreck.
Well, it's disaster. And here's the thing that's a problem there. Yeah. When people, some of the brands who do this, they probably just don't care, but it's actually not good for business. In the short term, you might get enough people that go, oh, let me try that. That sounds great. And then it doesn't deliver, and then they stop using it. On the other hand, when you say to somebody, look, here's this thing. As you continue to use it, it takes time to work. You get progressive benefits. You notice more as you go along. Give it some time, and you'll get to a good place. And you're honest about it. People have realistic expectations, and they start to notice it.
Yeah.
Instead of you don't make a sale, you make a customer, and you keep.
Well, that's how you build brand loyalty. Is products. What's going to do it for anybody is, does the product work for them? They actually see a benefit from that. And it's being very realistic in terms of that. It normally takes most supplements. Obviously, you feel immediate benefit from caffeine, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why they put caffeine in every energy drink.
Right.
Because
Caffeine, melatonin, things that give you pretty quick results. But
Right.
otherwise, most of them
no.
take time. It takes
does.
like, I used to, back in the days when I worked in retail a million years ago, customers would ask me, how quick will I notice results? And I used to tell them, for most people, somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks, but it could be longer depending on what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at prostate formulas, most of the research done on the nutraceutical ingredients took place over a period of 3 months, and they didn't start seeing results oftentimes until into month 2, let alone month 3. So, I mean, you have, to your point, you got to be realistic and give realistic expectations.
Exactly. Well, let's wrap it up, Gene. And
Yeah.
what's some final takeaways for you on this episode?
Final takeaways for me, not surprisingly, are some of the stuff that we've talked about in the past and that we just said. Use clinically relevant doses. Use nutraceuticals that have complementary, not redundant mechanisms of action. Have realistic expectations and be honest about your formulations. Those are
Exactly
key ones for me.
And brain health it's a long game. It's not a short game. So there is no, quote, limitless pills that are miracle pills you take to do that. That doesn't happen. Yes, you'll be able to feel some immediate benefits of energy or something with certain ingredients, but the reality is brain health is a long-term sort of deal. Neuroplasticity, all of that, in terms of keeping a healthy brain is just consistency in your supplement stack and what you're taking over the years. And you just remember it's the long game here. And I guess the last thing I would say for me is to build on what you said is for sure, take the time to do, there's lots of CROs out there. We can certainly tell you who to go check out to do a cost-effective study and pilot study. We have a laundry list of partners, as do I now with NutriSelect. If you've been following that, I'm building that. Gene's on the advisory board for that. But we have CRO partners. I'm building a consortium of CRO partners who are all about the science and all about doing that. So if you're not doing that, you should. Otherwise, your days are numbered when I get done with NutriSelect. So you better be thinking about how to pivot right now and start getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gene. Sorry.
And I like what you said about thinking about brain health as a long game.
Yeah.
Not just a single pill.
Exactly.
So, but in our conversations, you and I have talked about some of the some more upcoming episodes, some topics that we're kind of interested in. So I just wanted to highlight a little of that.
Sure.
One of the ones we thought was interesting is mood. I think mood is again another one of those multifaceted things, has different mechanisms of action and a lot of different nutraceuticals that have been shown to have some excellent effects with regard to mood, whether it be things like depression, whether it be things like anxiety, or stress, whatever it happens to be. There's a lot that can be done there, and I think we're going to have fun with that particular Bioactive Insight episode.
Yep. And then I think we're going to do one in psychedelics. This is a real hot area. It's real popular. So we want to dig into the science in that too. I think it's fascinating, actually.
It is. It's fascinating. And look, things that are also interesting, like skin health. And skin it's not just wrinkles. It's also different kinds of skin conditions, whether you're talking about something like acne or psoriasis or eczema, or there's a whole lot of different issues regarding skin, aging skin, young skin, and what you can do to make a difference in that regard.
Yep. All right, then. Well, that wraps up our show for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned for announcements. We'll do another bioactive breakdown. We have some topics for that as well, which is where we get guest panelists on from the industry and deep dive in that. If you missed it, go look at the last episode we did on the whole GLP-1 explosion in terms of supplements and GLP-1. So go check that out. That was our last episode. And that's it for me. Gene?
Yep.
Take us out of here then. All right.
All right.
We'll see you guys next time. Stay tuned for more news on that. Again, after post-production, this episode will be available on the website, YouTube channel, Spotify, etc. All those platforms, so follow along there. And also we'll do posts on LinkedIn and social media to let you know when it's out there. All right. And that's it.